welcome back. So today's video is one that's near and dear to my heart because something I'm really going through right now, being postpartum. I'm about 2 months now. And if you're anything like me, as soon as I delivered my baby girl a couple of months ago, I instantly started thinking about how am I going to take off all this weight. So I gained about 30 pounds during my pregnancy and was excited to kind of get back into what I used to be prior to being pregnant. So of course everyone often talks about how am I going to lose postpartum weight, and I am going to cover that in today's video because that is a real true problem that I'm facing now. But there are other problems that we go through in the postpartum period that aren't so much talked about, and ones that I've now, after having 4 kids, have some tips for on how to tackle. So if you're interested in videos like this, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate the support. The first topic I wanted to talk about is something that affects all the other topics. So that would be dehydration. So it's something, of course, we hear about even when you're not pregnant in terms of drinking enough water to stay well hydrated, healthy, help with weight loss, and help with wrinkles and skincare. All of those things are affected by how hydrated we are. But it's especially important in the postpartum period. I have a couple of tips on how to stay hydrated, both during pregnancy, postpartum, and also people that aren't pregnant and are postpartum as well. One way to do that is to invest in a cute water bottle. So of course I love shopping, so it's one excuse to go shopping for something that may help me in terms of staying hydrated. So I have 2 from both Hydro Flask here and Swell. This is actually what I'm using right now. It's filled up. And what I do is, at least when I was working, is in the morning I would make it a routine. So I get my water bottle, go downstairs into the break room, fill it up with ice. I like ice cold water typically, and these flasks are really good at keeping things extra cold throughout the entire day. So I would go ahead and fill it up with ice water and put it on my desk. And throughout the day in clinic, I would walk back, take a sip, and my goal was to finish the entire bottle during the day. So if I was able to do 1 bottle, my next goal would be to try to drink 2 bottles in the entire day. So really, in terms of being postpartum, you at least want to drink 2 or 3 of these bottles during a day. And that's a lot for me, especially when you have a busy lifestyle and you're working and you're postpartum taking care of a newborn. It's hard to remember to drink water. So by having that reminder and making it a routine to sit this on your desk every single day will kind of encourage you to do it. So drinking extra water is especially important if you're breastfeeding. So it's important to stay well hydrated and help with increasing milk production as well. I'm currently nursing, so water is especially important for me, and people that are nursing need to drink even more water than what I talked about earlier. Dehydration also affects many other aspects of our lives as well. So one less talked about consequence of being dehydrated is constipation, and it's not something I really want to talk about here, but I know that's a problem, especially for people that are postpartum. So hydration helps many aspects of our lives. So besides getting a fun water bottle, another way to help stay hydrated is reminders. So you can get reminders either through something such as a Fitbit, which I've invested in a couple years ago and I really am enjoying. They have water trackers on these Fitbits, so you can log how many cups of water you drink per day and make sure that you stay on track. There are also many other apps that you can find that monitor water intake as well. So the second problem that we experience in the postpartum period is one that is often a sensitive issue for a lot of women, myself included. So when I had my first child 7 years ago now, I wasn't aware of postpartum hair loss. And this is something that happens to most women, usually around the 3 to 4 month period postpartum, where you can lose large amounts of hair, even large clumps of hair, and have some bald spots where you never had them before. This was a complete shock to me when I first had my son 7 years ago. I wasn't really aware of this, something not many people talked about, at least in my circles. So it really frightened me. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was worried that the hair growth wouldn't resume. But now that I've been through this several times now, having had my 4th child just a couple months ago, I know it's something that's completely normal. What causes it is during pregnancy, the estrogen spikes in your body, and the estrogen promotes the hair growth phase of the hair development, more so than if you weren't pregnant. So during this time, you lose hair less frequently than you do normally. So that being said, after you deliver and are in the postpartum period, your estrogen levels rapidly decrease, And when that happens, your hair starts falling out and it overcompensates for the hair loss that didn't happen when you were pregnant. So you notice large amounts of hair, oftentimes about 3 months being postpartum. So I'm only a little over 2 months now postpartum, but I have started noticing the hair loss, especially when I wash my hair in the shower. I've noticed some pretty decent sized clumps of hair coming out already. So this is something, again, that is very normal, something that you really can't prevent. Usually the hair grows back within 6 to 12 months. It's also hard dealing with the small baby hairs that come in as well. So while we can't prevent this, there are some tips that I like to use that maybe help it from getting a little bit worse and hopefully helping hair to regrow a little quicker. So one thing is talking to your hairstylist. So I'm due for a haircut anyway, so I probably will be changing my hairstyle, which you all will see in the next month or so, and trying to shorten it up a bit. And while cutting your hair definitely does not help technically with the hair loss, it may mask it a little bit because, of course, if your hair is shorter, you won't notice as long locks of hair coming out when you brush it or in the shower. Secondly, you could wash your hair a little less frequently and use more dry shampoo instead in between. So the dry shampoo I'm using is the Oribe Gold Dust Dry Shampoo. I do notice a lot more hair loss in the shower than I do in other times of the day, so I try to minimize the times that I actually wash my hair for that reason. Along with that, when you brush wet hair, that can also increase hair damage, especially during this postpartum period. So the good trusty old wet brush is something that has been very handy for me recently. So I do like to brush my hair after I come out of the shower. So I do use this wet brush, and it definitely minimizes, in my opinion, the amount of hair loss that I'm experiencing. So something to check out if you haven't already. And then also to let your hair air dry rather than using a lot of heat products during this period can also help with that too. The third problem that I'm currently experiencing in this postpartum period that's not much talked about as well is dental hygiene. This is especially important even during pregnancy, where the hormonal changes that we experience increase our risk of gingival disease. So your gingival or gum line areas tend to become more inflamed and more sensitive, and as such you can also have increased cavities or decay associated with them. So when I'm pregnant, my dentist actually recommends that I go in for cleanings more frequently than I normally do. So I normally go every 6 months, which is pretty standard, but during pregnancy periods I actually increase that to every 3 months just for a good cleaning more often. And if you do develop any cavities or any dental work that need to be taken care of during pregnancy, overall dental procedures are generally safe. You do want to check with your dentist and doctor, of course, before having them, but in general they're safe to do during pregnancy and even encouraged. So the postpartum period, you also want to be extra careful in terms of getting increased gingival disease and cavities. So one thing that can help with that is good hydration. Having a dry mouth and being dehydrated increases the risk of dental cavities as well. So again, the hydration component comes into play in this category as well. And also that can be very difficult when you have a newborn because you're up in the wee hours of the night taking care of the baby and don't get much sleep. So sleep and hydration are super important as much as possible within the confines of having a newborn to address during this period. So make sure you get all those dental checkups as they recommend. So the fourth problem that I'm experiencing in the postpartum period that's not much talked about is hyperpigmentation. And this is another very sensitive subject for me as well because I normally have hyperpigmentation problems. I grew up in Hawaii and had a lot of sun exposure without much sunscreen back then. So I do have a lot of areas that I'm conscious about. And this just is heightened when I become pregnant and are in the postpartum period. So as you've heard, when you're pregnant, you often hear, oh, you have that pregnancy glow, but nobody really talks about a postpartum glow, and there's good reason for that. It seems that in the postpartum period, at least from my experience, the hyperpigmentation and skin problems tend to get a little worse with all the hormonal changes. Again, this is hard to avoid during pregnancy and in the postpartum period, and the reason this happens is, again, hormonal changes. The hormones we experience a surge of during pregnancy, including estrogen, increase the melanin in our skin, and melanin is the pigment that's responsible for our skin coloration. So with increased hormones and estrogen, we notice increased melanin and increased dark spots or hyperpigmentation on the skin. Again, it's something that we can't avoid, but hopefully we can mask it until it's able to improve on its own some. You may have heard of the terms melasma or chloasma, and those are terms related to pregnancy masks or associated hyperpigmentation. So one thing that definitely could help from getting this hyperpigmentation from worsening is good sunscreen. So it's very essential to wear sunscreen every single day, even in these winter and spring months where the sun is not always out. You're still getting UV exposure. So it's essential to wear a sunscreen every single day. So the new one that I picked up recently is this Unseen sunscreen by Supergoop, and so far I've been enjoying it. I wear it under my makeup, and it provides good SPF coverage. It's SPF 40, it's water and sweat resistant, so it's one option, but there's so many options out there, and it really doesn't matter too much. I think as long as you have a good SPF on there and you're wearing it every day, that's important to do. Of course, you can definitely conceal the hyperpigmented areas with good makeup and concealer, as I definitely do as well. But if it's becoming more of a problem for you, or something that you're even more conscious of, you definitely can talk to your dermatologist about other options. So there are some topical laser type treatments, or even just topical agents to put on them, such as retinoic acid products, that may be helpful to you, but something that I would discuss with your dermatologist or physician about first. One other thing to think about in terms of hyperpigmentation is some types of contraceptives as well, depending on their hormonal components, can worsen hyperpigmentation. So in the postpartum period, you again want to think about contraception if that's something that's important to you. So there are many options on the market now, and it's something to discuss with your physician about as well. The fifth postpartum problem that I'm currently tackling are stretch marks. So this is another real sensitive area for me, and one that I'm definitely having to work on, and people are really conscious of, especially as we're heading into the spring and summer swimsuit season. So this again is inevitable. It's hard to avoid for most women, especially if you've had multiple pregnancies like I've had. They're just getting worse and worse with subsequent pregnancies. So I've thought a lot about how to try to tackle this and hopefully prevent it. And again, prevention here I think is the key. Once you have them, it's really hard to completely erase them. So if you can try to prevent them from getting worse, that's always very helpful. So the main thing is to stay hydrated again. The hydration is so important. Carry that water bottle around with you. Good hydration helps maintain the elastin in the skin, which helps prevent stretch marks from occurring or worsening. So that's number one, is good hydration. Number two is maintaining a healthy lifestyle, of course, by losing the weight, starting an exercise routine. These things are all very helpful in maintaining the skin elasticity as well. And finally is to maintain your skin with good moisture. So there are many agents for body moisturizers on the market, of course. In general, I like to pick some gentle ones that are very hydrating. So I have a couple of good options for you, although there are many, and whichever one you like, I think should be sufficient in this category. But some good ones are, firstly, the Ultra Repair Cream. I really thought was quite moisturizing, especially for the skin of my body. This is just a small tube I have here. I did have a big vat of it, which I've worked through, so I need to repurchase. There are different scents, however, I tend to often just use the unscented version. I also often use this L'Occitane Ultra Rich Body Cream with shea butter. So again, this has a scent to it, but one that I don't mind much. But again, it's a very hydrating cream that I like to apply on my problem areas as well. And finally, a nice moisturizer pair here is from Josie Maran. So she makes the 100% pure argan oil, which you may have seen, which I tend to use on my face for moisture, but you definitely can use this as spot treat anywhere on your body, including your hair and cuticles. It works really well for. In addition to just targeting it to my stretch mark areas, has been, in my opinion, quite helpful for that. And then there also is the Whipped Argan Oil Body Cream, which provides more thorough coverage than just the spot coverage with the oil. So this is something I like to lather over most of my skin, especially over the problem areas as well. Comes in the unscented version, which I have here, but also some gentle scents as well. And these products are all very, very gentle for the skin, which is what I think works best for this problem. And the final and sixth problem I'm tackling now that I wanted to talk about is the dreaded weight loss problem. So again, I instantly think about weight loss as soon as I have my babies. You've gained so much weight during the pregnancy. It's very uncomfortable at the end of pregnancy, so you're excited to actually start getting your body back. But this is something that doesn't happen right away. You really took so long to put on the weight, over 9 months or so, that it doesn't come off quite as easily for that reason. Especially if you've had multiple kids like I've had and are getting older as I am, it's getting even harder for me to lose that weight. So during my pregnancy, I gained about 30 or 35 pounds. and I still have about 15 pounds to lose, and I'm currently about 2 months postpartum now. So it's an ongoing effort for me, but I found a few tips that I think might be helpful for you. So number one, of course, is exercise, and I definitely need to start picking this up more that I'm feeling better. In terms of when to start your exercise routine, it really depends on your obstetrician's recommendations and how well you feel. So in general, for me at least, my obstetrician recommended no significant exercise for 6 weeks after delivering my baby. He also recommended not to lift more than 10 pounds during that period, and that's because your body just needs some time to recover, and you really don't want to push yourself too much physically in that early time period. For some people, it may be less than 6 weeks, so it's really something that you need to discuss with your physicians. But for me, at least, it was no more than 10 pounds for 6 weeks and no significant exercise, which I was okay with because I was still recovering. After that time, I definitely started feeling better, and I'm slowly starting to pick up an exercise routine. I don't have a scheduled routine yet, but I hope to do so soon. So a couple tips to help with that. Number one is you could get some cute exercise clothes to start off with. So that part I've already done. I haven't started exercising, but I enjoyed going and picking up a couple of cute workout outfits, including what I have on now. Really fun way to kind of get excited about starting a new exercise routine. I think that always helps. Once you have the outfits to exercise with, I think starting a regimented or scheduled plan is helpful, or getting an exercise buddy. So as I found in the past, if you have a running buddy or an exercise partner or one of your girlfriends to go with, you're less likely to ditch out on that exercise day. So you don't want to let that other person down. So of course you're more likely to actually go and actually do the exercise as you have planned. So I think getting an exercise buddy is essential, at least for me. Another good motivator is something like the Fitbit, which I mentioned earlier in this video. So I just got this version of the Fitbit, and you can change out the straps to match different outfits, so it's another fun aspect of it. But what's nice about it, of course, is it watches how many steps you take during the day, and they recommend 10,000 steps or so, which is nearly impossible for me to do. Even if my workday is relatively active on my feet, rounding in the hospital or in clinic, I still don't typically make 10,000 steps. So I have to make a conscious effort every day to try to hit that mark. So I'm a competitive person by nature, I think. So having that step counter really does motivate me to get those extra steps in at the end of the day. Other things that can help weight loss are just maintaining a healthy overall lifestyle. So eating healthy foods, taking prenatal vitamins, which I was recommended to do. Even in the postpartum period, I think a good prenatal vitamin still is helpful. And kind of watching your caloric intake, like all diets. So I definitely am not an expert in this area, clearly, but some things that I like to do to help try to watch what I eat a little bit during this time period is to minimize what I eat, at least during the lunches. So it's not a time to do any crash dieting, especially as your body's healing and especially if you're nursing your baby, but making more conscious effort to decide good healthy choices I think is important. So what I do is during the lunch times, I tend to swap out what I would normally eat in the cafeteria or in the cafes at work with a salad I bring from home. There are many of these pre-made salads on the market, of course. This is one that I just picked up from Whole Foods, which I really like. It has kale and quinoa in it. So they come with the utensil, even they come with the dressing, everything's inside. So you're able to eat this for a quick lunch. It's relatively filling. There are a couple other benefits, of course. In general, it's less expensive than eating out for lunch, and also it saves a lot of time. I know I spent a decent portion of my day standing in line waiting to buy food. So these pre-packed salads are very helpful for many reasons. You also want to try as much as possible in this period to maintain a healthy lifestyle in terms of your sleep patterns. Again, this is nearly impossible with a newborn. I totally get that. My 2-month-old still isn't sleeping through the night, of course. But as much as possible, if you can maintain good sleep, that also definitely helps with weight loss as well. So if you can get your partner or someone to help you out for certain feedings, I think those are all very useful things to take advantage of. And finally, one of the things that can help weight loss is by breastfeeding. There are many other benefits to breastfeeding, I'm sure you've heard elsewhere. And I know breastfeeding is not for everyone, nor is it something that everyone can successfully accomplish. And I completely understand that. I've had my struggles with breastfeeding as well. But I do know that that is an added side bonus to nursing your new one, is you definitely tend to lose the pounds a lot quicker when you're breastfeeding than if you're not. So there you have it. Those are the 5 less talked about postpartum problems that I'm currently experiencing, and some tips to hopefully help you tackle them, in addition to weight loss. So a total of 6 problems. There are many more, of course, but I think those are the major ones that I'm focusing on right now. And the main thing to remember is, of course, again, it took you about a year to get to this point in terms of the prenatal time, being pregnant, and now the immediate postpartum period. So it's going to take a while for you to bounce back into where you were before you were pregnant, even well over a year. And in my personal opinion, I never completely regained how my body was, how my exercise routine was, how my overall health and fitness was at all, even years after delivering my little ones. That's something that we have to kind of come to terms with. I think the trade-off is well worth it. But if anything, I hope these tips will help you get through the tough periods. And of course, beauty and weight loss are not the most important things in life, or especially if you have a newborn that you're taking care of. However, it is important to focus on yourself and focus on your mental health, your physical health and well-being, because you need to be the best you that you can be to take care of your little one. So that's how I look at things, and I hope these tips were able to help you as well. So of course, if you have any comments about what I mentioned in this video today, or especially any suggestions for me on how I can tackle some of these issues, I'd really appreciate interacting with you, and leave them in the comments down below. And again, if you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate the support and look forward to seeing you in future videos as well. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.